When God writes your love story, it's nothing like the stories you see in movies or the ones people post about online. It's not perfect, not predictable, and not something you can plan. It's a story shaped by patience, faith, and purpose. When God is the author, He doesn't begin with romance, He begins with refinement. He doesn't give you what you think you want. He gives you what He knows you need. And that's where His story becomes more beautiful than anything you could have imagined for yourself. So many people try to write their own love stories. They chase after connections, forcing doors to open that were never meant to be walked through. They hold on to people who were only meant to teach them, not stay with them. But when God writes your love story, you learn that some endings are actually beginnings in disguise. You begin to understand that His no was never rejection. It was redirection towards something greater. Sometimes God removes what you thought was right for you to make room for what's truly meant for you. His plan doesn't always make sense in the moment, but it always makes sense in hindsight. When God writes your story, He starts by writing on your heart. He shapes your character before introducing your companion. He teaches you how to be whole before He brings you someone to walk beside you. Because two broken people cannot create a complete love. They can only create chaos. God wants you to love from a place of healing, not hurting. That's why He takes time to prepare you, to strengthen your identity in Him, and to fill the empty spaces that no human being could ever fill. When He becomes your first love, you learn how to love others the right way. When you're waiting, it's easy to question if God remembers you. You see others finding love, starting families, living the dream, and you wonder, what about me, God? But His delay is not denial. Every moment of waiting is part of His writing. God's timing is like poetry. It flows perfectly even if you can't hear the rhythm yet. When He finally turns the page, you'll see that every unanswered prayer, every broken piece, and every tear was necessary for the masterpiece He was creating. The love story God writes is not built on emotions that fade, but on foundations that last. It's not about butterflies, it's about balance. It's not about sparks, it's about spiritual connection. The person God sends will not pull you away from your purpose. They'll push you toward it. They won't compete with your calling. They'll complete it. They will pray with you, grow with you, and walk with you through seasons of joy and trial. When God writes your love story, your relationship becomes a testimony, not just a temporary thrill. It becomes a reflection of His faithfulness, not your fantasy. Many people miss God's story because they're too busy chasing their own version. But love, when it's written by heaven, comes in peace. It's not rushed. It's not manipulative. It's not confusing. It's steady, patient, and kind. It teaches you how to give without fear and receive without pride. It's not something you find. It's something you recognize. Because when the right person enters your life, your spirit will know, this is what I've been waiting for. And even before that person comes, God will give you glimpses of His love through the way He sustains you. He'll show you that you were never alone. He'll remind you that every heartbreak had purpose. He'll reveal that the love you were seeking in others was always meant to be found first in Him. Because when you learn to love God fully, you stop settling for anything less than divine. When God writes your love story, He doesn't begin with what you want. He begins with what you need. You may have a picture in your mind of the kind of person you want, how you'll meet them, and how your story will unfold. But God's version will look completely different. His way often begins in silence, in waiting, and sometimes in heartbreak. It's in those quiet, lonely seasons that He begins shaping your heart to recognize real love when it finally appears. God doesn't rush. He doesn't make mistakes. He's not late. He's simply writing a story that will glorify Him and strengthen you at the same time. When God writes your love story, the journey is never about getting someone else first. It's about becoming someone else first. You learn that love isn't about finding a perfect person. It's about letting God perfect your heart. He uses the waiting to teach you humility, the disappointments to teach you strength, and the delays to teach you trust. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every moment of loneliness has a purpose. It's easy to feel forgotten when things aren't happening. But the truth is, God is not withholding something from you. He's preparing something for you. And in that preparation, He's making sure you're ready for the blessing when it finally arrives. Many people want the relationship, but not the refining. They want the connection, but not the correction. They pray for love, but run from growth. But God's story is built on growth. He will never bring you into something you're not prepared to handle. That's why some people come into your life for a season and then leave. They weren't part of the final chapter. They were just part of the lesson. Some people were never meant to stay. They were meant to teach you who you are. what you deserve, and what real love should look like. God uses every person, every experience, every moment to move you closer to his perfect plan. When God writes your love story, it won't be about what looks good on the outside. It will be about what feels right on the inside. It will be built on faith, not on fear, on peace, not on pressure. The love that comes from God doesn't make you anxious, confused, or uncertain. It gives you peace even in the unknown. You'll know it's from him because it aligns with his word, not your worries. It won't distract you from your purpose. It will deepen it. The person he sends will not compete with your calling. They'll complement it. They'll pray with you when you're weak, believe in you when you doubt yourself, and help you walk in the purpose God has designed for both of you. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to let go of what you think love should look like. We hold on to our version of the story so tightly that we leave no space for God to write his. But when you finally surrender the pen, something amazing happens. Peace enters. You stop striving and start trusting. You stop forcing connections and start recognizing divine ones. You begin to see that love is not something you chase, it's something God reveals. And when he reveals it, it will not require you to compromise who you are. It will not pull you away from God, but push you closer to him. The person God chooses for you will love you not just for what you show the world, but for who you are in your most unguarded moments. They will see your scars and still see your value. They will understand your flaws and still see your faith. They will walk beside you through seasons of growth. And together you will reflect the kind of love that honors God. That's the difference between a love you write and a love God writes. Yours might impress people, but his will impact eternity. When God writes your love story, he doesn't just bring two hearts together. He aligns two destinies. His story is never about temporary emotions. It's about eternal purpose. We often think love is about finding someone who makes us feel good, but God's love stories are about finding someone who makes us grow, someone who helps us become who he created us to be. His kind of love isn't built on attraction alone. It's built on assignment. It's a connection designed in heaven long before you even knew what you were praying for. You see, when God writes your love story, he doesn't just match personalities, he matches purposes. He connects two people who will serve, build, pray, and believe together. The person he sends into your life won't distract you from your calling. They'll pull you deeper into it. They'll love you enough to challenge you, to push you closer to God, to remind you that love is not just about comfort, it's about commitment. Godly love refines you, it doesn't ruin you. It matures your faith instead of draining your energy. It teaches you to forgive, to listen, and to love beyond feelings. Sometimes God doesn't bring someone into your life right away because he's still developing the purpose he placed inside of you. You may think you're ready, but God knows when you're truly prepared. A premature connection can destroy a divine purpose. That's why he allows seasons of silence, of solitude, and sometimes of separation, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He wants to make sure you know who you are before someone else comes to share your life. Because if you don't know your identity in Christ, you'll start depending on another person to define your worth. When you trust God with your love story, you learn to rest in his timing instead of rushing in your own. You begin to see that what feels like delay is actually divine design. Every season of waiting builds strength. Every disappointment builds clarity. Every time God closes a door, it's not rejection, it's protection. He's keeping you from relationships that could derail your destiny. Because when God writes your story, he's not just protecting your heart, he's protecting your future. The love story God writes is not about having someone who completes you, but someone who complements you. It's two whole people coming together to serve one holy purpose. The love that comes from God is selfless, patient, and kind. It's not jealous, not boastful, not proud. It mirrors his own love. And when two people love with that kind of grace, their relationship becomes more than just a partnership. It becomes a ministry. It becomes a living testimony of God's goodness, a reflection of his covenant, and an example to others that true love still exists, the kind that honors God above everything else. But before that kind of love can happen, God will test your heart. He'll let you experience relationships that don't work so you can recognize the one that's meant to last. He'll let you see the difference between infatuation and intention, between temporary feelings and timeless purpose. Those heartbreaks you endured weren't wasted. They were necessary chapters that taught you what real love is and what it's not. Every tear, every goodbye, every unanswered prayer was shaping your heart for the one he has chosen. When you finally meet the person God has written into your story, it will be different. You won't have to chase them. You'll recognize them. You won't have to force anything. Peace will confirm it. There will be an ease to it, not because it's perfect, but because it's purposed. You'll look at them and see how perfectly God timed it, how He allowed your paths to cross at just the right moment after both of you had grown into who you were meant to be. And you'll realize that every delay, every moment of waiting was worth it. Many people try to write their own love stories out of impatience. They settle for connections that look good in the moment, but fall apart in the long run. They chase relationships that bring excitement but lack foundation. But when God is the author, His story is never shallow. He builds something strong, something steady, something sacred. When you allow God to write your story, you stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. You stop searching for attention and start waiting for alignment. God doesn't want you to settle for temporary emotions. He wants you to experience eternal connection. When God writes your love story, He doesn't just give you someone to love, He gives you someone to grow with. The person He sends will not only hold your hand in joy, but also lift your spirit in pain. They'll see you for who you are, not for what you can offer. They'll walk with you through storms, not just sunshine. They'll pray with you, not just play with your heart. The relationship will not just make you feel loved, it will make you feel closer to God. That's how you know it's divine, because it doesn't take you away from Him, it draws you nearer. But before God gives you that kind of love, He often takes you through seasons of waiting and transformation. He refines your heart through delay and disappointment. He removes the people who were only meant for a chapter, so that when the right one arrives, there's space for them to stay. The waiting can be painful, but it's purposeful. God uses that time to build your patience, strengthen your faith, and teach you the kind of love that lasts. Because before you can receive a blessing, you must become one. There will be moments when you wonder if God remembers your prayers. You'll see others fall in love and move forward while you're still standing in the waiting. But remember this, God is not ignoring you. He's preparing you. The love story He's writing for you is not just about emotions. It's about mission. It's not just about romance. It's about revelation. He's aligning someone whose heart beats with the same rhythm of faith as yours, someone whose purpose complements yours perfectly. When it finally happens, you'll see how every not yet was part of His greater wise. When God writes your love story, it's marked by peace. There's no confusion, no competition, no need to pretend. You can be yourself and still feel fully accepted. You can share your dreams and know they'll be understood. You'll realize that love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about growing through it together. God's love story isn't built on performance. It's built on prayer. It's two people learning how to love each other through grace, patience, and forgiveness. And sometimes the reason your story takes time is because God is still preparing the other person too. He's teaching them how to love you in the way you've prayed to be loved. He's shaping their heart, building their faith, and aligning their steps with yours. When the time comes, your paths will meet not by coincidence, but by divine appointment. You won't have to force it. You'll just know this is God's hand at work. You see, when God writes your love story, He doesn't give you what you think you deserve. He gives you what you've been shaped to carry. Sometimes He withholds a relationship you're praying for because He knows your heart still needs healing. He knows that if He gives you the promise too early, it might become your idol instead of your blessing. Love that's written by God is not meant to replace Him. It's meant to reflect Him. That's why before He brings someone into your life, He makes sure your love for Him comes first. Because any love that competes with God's place in your heart is not love. It's distraction. There will be moments when you feel forgotten, when you question whether God even hears your prayers. But those are the moments He's the most active. He's aligning the details you can't see. He's shaping the person you'll one day meet. He's teaching you how to wait, not with bitterness, but with trust. Waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. Every season of waiting deepens your faith, strengthens your patience, and develops your wisdom. You begin to realize that God's not yet is never no. It's His way of saying, I'm still working on something beautiful. When the right person comes, it won't be forced. It won't be filled with confusion, competition, or chaos. It will come with peace, not because it's perfect, but because it's purposed. The person God chooses for you will understand your calling and walk beside you through it. They won't just fit into your life. They'll help fulfill your purpose. They'll pray with you when you're tired, remind you of God's promises when you forget, and help you grow in ways you didn't know you could. Their presence will bring calm to your spirit, not pressure to your heart. That's how you'll know this love is not man-made, it's heaven sent. But to experience that kind of love, you must be willing to let God lead. Too often, we try to control the outcome, to force the timing, or to hold on to people who were never meant to stay. Yet every time we take the pen from God's hand, we end up with confusion. True peace only comes when you surrender your story to the one who already knows the ending. You have to trust that God's plan is better than your preference. Because what he's writing is not just a love story, it's a legacy. It's a relationship that will not only bless you, but also bless others through you. The love that God writes will make you more compassionate, more patient, more faithful. It will teach you that love isn't about perfection, but about progress. It's not about two people trying to fix each other, but about two hearts allowing God to fix them together. When you love through his design, your relationship becomes a reflection of his grace. It becomes a place where forgiveness is practiced, kindness is lived, and faith is shared. That kind of love can't be rushed because God takes his time crafting something that will last beyond a lifetime. In conclusion, when God writes your love story, it's not a fairy tale. It's a faith story. It's not just about meeting the right person. It's about becoming the right person. It's about learning to wait with peace, to trust with patience, and to love with purity. God's timing may not always make sense, but it's always right. And one day, when his plan unfolds before your eyes, you'll look back and see why every delay was necessary. You'll understand that what you thought was a waiting season was really a preparation season. And you'll smile through grateful tears, whispering, "This is what I was waiting for. This is what it looks like when God writes my love story."